Please welcome founder and CEO of RedAwning.com, Tim Choate, and founder and CEO of VTrips, Steve Milo, in conversation with Skift executive editor and founding editor, Dennis Schaal.
Hey everybody, high noon, we're making it. We've got a couple of gunslingers here, so let's see how it goes.
One gunslinger.
One gunslinger. Tim, the gunslinger.
No.
Oh, okay. So I thought it'd be fun to play a game of compare and contrast. So you both dabble in some of the same spaces, but you do things a little differently. So Tim, tell us what your core business is and what your business model is and how you think it might be different than Steve's.
Oh, that's actually kind of easy. Red Awning is kind of widely known and widely misunderstood in the sense that we're today a complete platform for property manager success. We start with channels and marketing on channels and doing that really, really well. And then we actually partner more deeply all the way down to, how do we help your guests with check-in, or how do we act as a backup phone service for you, or how do we do dynamic pricing? It's a comprehensive package at our core, and then we work with different clients of different sizes, depending on what their needs are. So Vail Resorts, all the way down to an individual homeowner with a property next door. Exclusively for homeowners, exclusively for some of the property managers, and then non-exclusively for the larger property managers. So Steve's VTrips, obviously is a large property manager, was a client of ours some years ago. Mm-hmm. And as was Turnkey before they got bought by Vacasa. And so we can work with any property manager. We are not on the ground. So our view is our services and solutions are everything from the sky that we can do, everything that we think of as global, and then we work with people locally because the guest is going to be served locally, and we don't do that.
So that would mean that you have a lot fewer employees than Steve would have at V.
A lot fewer.
Right. And your business model?
We are a 10% commission or a 10% commission. So if you do some channels with us, it's a 10% commission, and we optimize them, and we do great. If you do full PMS, we'll pay for your PMS. We'll act as your backup phone service. We'll do your dynamic pricing. We'll do your digital photography. And we'll do all your marketing distribution and your website. Those are our highest performing partners. Mm-hmm. It's still 10%.
Got it. Steve, your turn. Compare and contrast.
Well, I think Tim did a good job of describing the business they're in, which is effectively handling the marketing and the distribution to companies. That's obviously a useful service. What we do, which is far harder, is end-to-end service. So we're exclusive property management company. We manage the entire operational component of the guest journey, and we do it for the owner for a commission. And that's hard. It's been very hard for a lot of the companies that have attempted it in the US, but we've been able to make it work, and we've been very profitable, and we've been able to scale.
It seems like a really tough business.
It's a tough business if you don't have the right management team. You have the right management team, and you have a culture of profitability. You can be very profitable in this business. You can have margins in the 20s. And you can have investors still trying to get you term sheets even in this market. I mean, when you execute and you have a team that knows how to execute, this business can thrive. And look, I'm not just the only person here. You've got a Waze. I mean, they pulled, they were going to go out for almost $2.1 billion. They've executed. Sykes out of the UK has executed. There's been other companies in Europe, like Interhomes, that have executed. Mm-hmm. The U.S. market, I agree with what Brian Egan said about it's a pretty hyper-fragmented market. It's just there hasn't been operators in this market that have executed. But we have, and we're going to continue to.
Well, what would you both say is the key to execution then?
Well, and by the way, I agree, Steve's job's harder. I think doing effective on-the-ground management and keeping it profitable is really hard. We've been profitable for years. Our job, getting profitable, is a little easier for a model like ours. And I think part of our view is what is local stays local, and if we take away a lot of the local work, like local people don't need to be worrying about IT solutions and all kinds of stuff, it allows them more time to do that work well, which is the key, because a one-star review is going to take you down locally. So I think I was responding to him more than I was to your question.
Look, I mean, it's people, it's systems, it's process, it's management that empowers the local people with the tools to be able to look at the guest reviews, and it's also structure, right? If you try to throw people into a company where you're managing 500 properties and you just have a housekeeping manager and a maintenance manager, that model breaks down, and we've seen it. You have to go in and you have to start, just like every other business that's been successful in this industry, localize it. Take it down to the pod level, make those people in that pod accountable, have a general manager on top of it, have a regional manager on top of that, drive not just the P&L, which is very important, but drive the guest satisfaction score and make it part of their bonus. When you actually bonus on the guest experience, and you actually get the people to compete against each other and see their scores, and also reward with bonuses, not just those people in the pod, but the cleaners, the maintenance people, and not even just the bonus, but the recognition. That's how you drive true guest satisfaction. And that's what's been broken in some of the companies in the US component. They haven't been focused on the guest experience.
It's also passion. You know, I think you have to have passionate people in those local markets who really want to do a great job, really want to have a great guest experience.
And they have to want to work for you. I mean, you have to have, you know, it starts with culture, right? You have to create a culture where people enjoy coming to work, and you recognize the people that are talented in those organizations. And look, we've done a lot of growth through M&A, and we've kept those key people in those companies that built those great brands that we've acquired, and in many cases, they're now regional vice presidents or operation managers. We've promoted from internally, and people are proud. And that's the fun, the pride, the fact that things continue to improve. That's what makes people want to show up in the morning and do a great job and execute on the customer level and the owner level.
So how do you maintain that culture when you're doing, like a lot of property management companies are doing roll-ups? They're buying all kinds of small companies. How do you keep that culture going, and how do you integrate them?
Part of it is I started with one property. I know every aspect of the business. When I come in and I talk to people on a company we've acquired, I think I have a lot of credibility. And for sure, before you acquire a company, you've got to have access to the key employees. Because once that owner leaves that built that company, those key employees are who is left. And they have to believe in your vision, which we have executed. We also do essentially profit interest. We're not publicly traded, we're private, with the key employees so that they have a real stake in the future of the company, and then bonus. But it's also, we do quarterly retreats, we fly people out, we obviously have weekly meetings, we have virtual meetings, all the things that you do to create culture. And by the way, in the meeting, when I start these quarterly meetings, I ask people to stand up and say where they're from, how long they've been with the company, and then the other thing we have them do is raise their hand if they've been promoted in the last year. And that's really resonates with people that they have a path forward in this industry.
Tim, same for you?
Yeah, well, it's a little different because we don't have the on-the-ground piece of it,
Right.
but definitely we do everything possible to highly value our team. Actually, probably a third of our team has worked with me across 3 companies over 20 years, and with my CTO as well. So we find really smart, dedicated people who are also really, I do it for fun.
Right.
So people, I'm fun to work with because that's what I want to do.
I can tell you're fun to work with.
I am, and so the people that we hire, they have to be both smart, because I think in this category, especially in the technology sides of it, things move really quickly, and you have to constantly adjust, and so you have to be pretty smart to be able to kind of move fast enough. But then, one of our criteria is they have to be fun. Running companies now for 25 years, I found one bad seed creates 10 bad seeds, creates 50 bad seeds. And so negativity has to be out the door. That doesn't mean you don't have challenges, and I'm a glutton for challenges. I love challenges. So, they're just opportunities. But yeah, so I think keeping a culture, it's hard to keep a culture, especially when everyone's all together. It's hard to keep a culture when, some guest is going to yell at you for something you didn't do. Red Awning is not in the local management business, but more than half of our public reviews are things like, if people are unhappy, whatever, the place wasn't clean enough. Well, we don't clean the place. That's someone else.
Right.
Steve does that. So it's a challenging business. People come in with their own perspectives. I happen to have a high-end house myself. I run multiple vacation rentals of my own, and I had a guest show up, and they sent their cleaner the day before to actually check the house out, and they paid for a whole night at this expensive house just for the cleaner to check it out. And it had gone through 2 rounds of cleaning. They're like, it's not clean enough. Right. And my cleaner was like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll clean it a 3rd time, take every piece of fabric out of the house and clean it. And he said, and wait till I tell you my Kardashian story. People come in with different expectations. And so, I was like, okay, whatever it takes to make them happy.
Right. We'll go for the Kardashian story later.
I didn't hear it yet, so I can't share it.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So I think I've had my own versions.
So which business model wins? Which one is better to be in? Or is there room for both?
I
well,
think
there's
you need
room for both.
Go
I
ahead.
mean, clearly, there's always room for a company that can drive distribution and marketing. There's going to be a subsection of property managers and rent by owners that want those services. If you're talking about what drives the maximum shareholder value, it's exclusive end-to-end property management. You look at the companies that won in the hotel space, they controlled the end-to-end process. The Hiltons, the Hyatts, the Marriotts, the way they got there was controlling the end-to-end process. They controlled the cleaning, the maintenance, the guest experience, the owner experience of the PropCo. They controlled it all. And because they controlled it all, they gained scale. And what we're interested in VTrips is maximizing shareholder value at a very high level.
Tim, what do you say about that?
Well, tech multiples are not property management multiples. Let's just say that. We don't talk EBITDA of 3 and 4 and 5 and 8. It's EBITDA of 40 and 50 and 100. So it's different. So I think that, but I also agree with Steve that exclusivity of property is where you can create the most value. Mm-hmm. So we have our exclusive program on one side for owners as well as different types of resorts and small to mid-sized property managers. And we do our best work there where we produce the best results for them there. This year we're seeing higher, not lower, occupancy and ADR with those folks in a market that's not doing that generally. So I agree with that. Who has control of the end property ultimately wins in many ways. But in terms of financial model-wise, when and if we ever sell, it'll be on a multiple that's more of a growth tech multiple, which is just a different category.
We like our multiples, and we most like exclusivity. When
Right.
you have exclusivity, you have power. I think there's a lot of discussion here about who has the power in this industry. Obviously, we've had OTAs talk about what their market strategy is. There is more demand for the right type of supply by far. If you have the right type of supply, you have power. And if you have exclusivity over that supply, you have the ability to pick and choose where you distribute, the ability on the pricing, the ability on effectively how you manage the guest experience, the whole bit. That's power. So the suppliers in this industry have the power. It took the demand and the category awareness to build that power, but we have the power, and now it's a question of execution. But I mean, to me, the next 10 years is about suppliers really taking off.
Airbnb and Google seem to have a lot of power.
Well, not to us. We were at 62% direct last year. So let's be clear. We use Airbnb as a distribution channel. We mark them up.
Okay.
We use Google as a distribution channel.
What is the purpose of marking them up?
Because we like to make it more expensive than our direct channel. And by the way, they have a guest service fee, which I don't believe is a sustainable model long term. So they're pricing up 10 to 12% more on gross just for the privilege of booking on Airbnb. And what do you get for that privilege? Sometimes not a great experience. With us, you have a property management company behind it. We're bumping up Airbnb 15% because I don't want to be overly dependent on a channel. I like channels that are supplier friendly, like VRBO. I like that channel. We don't mark them up as much because we like doing business with them. We like Booking.com. Because we have exclusivity, we have the power to do that. If Airbnb wants to have a conversation on how they want to be more supplier friendly, we're open to hear it.
Why are Vrbo and Booking.com more supplier friendly?
Policies, communication, those are the two big things. You know, Airbnb has extenuating circumstance policies where and caseworkers where they've overridden even, you know, when we send out a booking, we have the guests sign our own policies. Airbnb says their terms supersede that contract. Expedia and Booking.com would never do that. The other thing is tax collection. Airbnb insists on collecting tax and filing anonymously. That creates real problems for us because we can't go and prove to the Department of Revenue that we've actually paid, so we have to double pay. That's a problem. Also, Airbnb is basically believes that property managers, to a certain extent, are not the ones they want communicating with their guests. So they disintermediate the communication. That creates a poor guest experience. I'm sorry, when you disintermediate the communication between me and the guest, and you get in the middle of that, that's a bad guest experience.
Because you're going to steal their bookings if they don't do that.
That's the wrong way of looking at it. If they actually produce value, the guest would come back, and they should not be ashamed that the guest would come to us if we produce a better experience than they are. Look, this is a competition, and if you do a good job, you should not be ashamed that us as a supplier get a repeat book guest. Your job is to bring in more guests, and our job is to provide the best guest experience we can.
Tim, you use all those channels. Do you see that difference among them as well?
Well, there are differences among them, and I think this is where kind of Steve and I differ in terms of strategy. Our view is...
That's good for the conversation.
We fundamentally believe every property in front of every guest. And so, because that's how you maximize your results. And we use dynamic rates for the properties that we're exclusive on. I see some use dynamic rates. Dynamic rates work best when you have maximum demand. When you have lower demand, you get lower dynamic rates. All you have to do is go look on Airbnb and say, what do you recommend for the price for this property? Airbnb always recommends you lower your rate. Well, that's because despite the fact that they're really large, they have fractional demand. They can only look at their fraction. They say, oh, in this market, I have this much inventory and this much demand. But our view is you have to have all the demand, because when you have all the demand, your dynamic rates go up much more naturally in all places. We do marketing by channel. We do, for property managers that work with us exclusively, we had one join last year. They said we do 90% of our business on our own direct website. We're all direct. We do have these Airbnb and Vrbos, but you know, it's a really small piece of our business. Well, now they do 50% of their business on their direct website. Still great. 50% is a really good target. This is a much smaller manager than Steve, so less repeat guests. But guess what? Those channels, you know, Airbnb is doing 5 times the volume that they did with them last year. Booking.com is doing volume. Vrbo is doing volume. And they didn't value the channels. They didn't optimize the channels. Our focus is in each channel, we actually customize every part of the experience. We look at how to present the ads, how to do the titles, what are the promotional strategies, what drives the algorithm. We were Airbnb's first professional partner 10 years ago, so we actually know a lot about how that system works, usually more than our account managers do. We were also Google Travel's first direct partner when they launched Google Travel. So we like to be early, and then we study and study and study, and we test. So we represent about 25,000 properties, and it gives us a lot of room to try a lot of different strategies. Yeah, we think the channels, Airbnb is difficult in some ways. By the way, Booking.com is difficult in some ways. You know, we do all the reconciliations for all Booking.com for all of our clients because we're a one contract company. You don't have to have a contract with Booking.com. And let me tell you, Booking.com bills you for all stays. You have to go through and say, well, these 42 stays canceled, and these stays had these other things, and it's a lot of work. And if you have an overbooking, a double booking, Booking.com will charge you large fees. Airbnb will complain. I agree, the extenuating circumstances thing that Airbnb does is not great.
What about the anonymous filing of sales?
Hey, wait, who's asking the questions here?
I mean,
No, go ahead.
Well, what about the tax issue? Because, I mean, look, I mean, it's a real problem, right?
I totally get it. And we have multiple APIs with Airbnb to handle tax stuff. So I'm not sure.
Okay, well, they haven't
if
opened that up to us, and we're one of the larger property
come work
managers.
with Red Awning.
Yeah, talk.
Well, look, I mean,
Hey,
That's
so
not a reason to come work with Red
No,
Awning. It's
that's
a
right.
reason to do less business with Airbnb until they get the tax stuff right, because
it's
it's
complicated.
ridiculous.
speaking of Google Travel, do you see what do you see as their role right now, and is it trending upward or?
I think it's going slower than I would have liked it to go, and I think that that's the way Google does things to some degree with flights and
Luxury
so on.
of time?
It's both time and they have to watch out for monopolistic kind of issues, and so I feel like they're going to keep growing, but it hasn't been material the way we hoped it would be.
Right. Same?
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely not executed at a very fast level. They're still in beta. They're still on CPC, cost per click, as opposed to CPA. Which
They like to stay in beta for 5 years or whatever.
Well, I mean, it's hard to take them seriously. Plus, there's been a lot of leadership change there. So we do think with this category, once they convert over to cost per action, I would be very concerned with some of the OTAs that don't understand that you have to play with Google. So, at the end of the day, cost per action versus CPC is going to benefit property managers, because price, if you have the lowest price, you're going to convert at the highest level. There's no question about that, and that's going to benefit direct business. Before we go to audience questions, I want to ask you, what do you think's the next big thing in your sector, and what are you excited about? I mean, it's what LT talked about. It's OpCo, PropCo. So VTrips is starting to work closely with developers on PropCo. I was just at a couple meetings in Monday and Tuesday on forming a PropCo fund. We think this is a big part. Look, product. Let's talk about product. We all know that part of the biggest problems with guest satisfaction is the product is not optimized, right? In many cases, we talk about vacation homes. They're retrofitted second homes, and those second homes were never really built to be a vacation rental. Imagine this product if you were to design it from the beginning and truly make it a true guest experience, right? So that means smaller bedrooms, smaller closets, smaller bathrooms, but bigger open areas, bigger kitchens, bigger dining areas.
So you're talking about non-urban properties, right?
Well, we're only in non-urban areas, but I'm talking about the product in general being built from the ground floor up to maximize occupancy, guest experience, and revenue. If you do that, we crush the hotels.
What gives you the expertise to move from vacation rentals into that?
I'm doing it right now. I'm developing 70 cabins in Gatlinburg. They'll all have private heated pools. It's one of the biggest markets in the U.S. You've heard of the Gatlinburg Pigeon Forge market. 25,000 cabins in there. Only 200 have private heated pools. Anybody in this audience who's a property manager knows that the number one amenity that guests want is a private indoor heated pool or a private pool, right? So we're going to build this product. I'm in the process of building the first 11. I'm putting my money where my energy is and my passion is. I want better product in this industry.
Tim, for you, is it all doom and gloom now that we know that short-term rental, the growth is going to slow, or is there anything that excites you? What's next?
Well, we're going to grow 50 to 100% this year, so that part's doing okay. Some of that is through inventory growth, obviously, and also as we move toward fuller service with more clients, we actually get a much higher return for them and a higher return for us. Yeah, we're really excited. I mean, doom and gloom was 2020. We haven't looked back since then. To me, the thing that is intriguing, and we still don't even know where and how it will impact, is AI. We've been using AI.
Which is an audience question. How do you think ChatGPT, large language models, are going to change the guest experience?
Well, so we've been using AI for years for photo identification. We tag all our photos through an automated process, and we also identify missing amenities from PMS systems through photo tagging. It's been for years. We also use a complicated phone system we built with Amazon that has an intelligent assistant. My tech guys tell me it's not AI, but the intelligent assistant can send you your check-in instructions 24 hours a day without a human. And soon the intelligent assistant will take a booking or will charge a pet fee or extend your stay or do other things. We're looking at the ChatGPT AI. We're already experimenting for property copy. It doesn't get it accurate, but it does a beautiful job of writing copy that you can then edit from. So we're experimenting with that. We're looking at how to incorporate it, in particular for host and guest communication purposes. Hosts log into our platform. We have a zillion frequently asked questions, tooltips, and all this stuff. No one reads. So they call us and they say, how do I change these dates, or how do I overwrite those rates? And we're like, well, if you look at the tooltip, they never do it. So we're trying to figure out how an AI would be in there with all that data, our data, so it would be accurate, and basically be able to say, how can I help you, and solve all those things more quickly. We always think that if you can solve it faster and better at the same time without humans, that's always the best. We're also looking at the guest side of it, but it's still early. We have a bunch of tech guys. We are a tech-based company, and so anytime something new and exciting comes along, we have actually a document with 45 ways to use AI, and we have to figure out how to prioritize them, what to do with them, and how do we experiment with it.
Steve, if you want to comment on AI, or what can tech do and not do in this industry?
Well, tech can't run operations. I think there's a company in this space that thought that. Look, I mean, at the end of the day, part of this industry is about the touch point of the guest, and that requires maintenance and housekeepers and all the things that if you've ever gone into a hotel, you see they do, and many of these hotels do it incredibly well. And they certainly can show you the standards that it takes to have a true hospitality brand. I do think on the marketing, the distribution, revenue management, those are things that AI will improve, right? I think some of the tier 1 guest communication can be improved. I think even tier 1 owner communication can be improved. We're not trying to be a tech company. We don't have an army of software engineers at VTrips, but we do use best of breed companies, some that are here, that we partner with, who are making heavy bets in AI. And those are the companies that are very smart, that their core competency actually is technology. And those are who we like to partner with. We like to partner with smart companies.
What role is price transparency going to play? Are we going to move to some kind of industry standard? How do you view it?
Dennis, you know that I think the airlines have proven we're going unbundled and it's not coming back, right? I mean, there's a reason why unbundling works, right? It works because people get enticed by a low price, they book. It happens with cruise ships, it happens with airlines, it happens even in some cases with hotels that didn't get their wrists slapped on this stuff. We're not going back on unbundled. I mean, it's a fantasy right now that we're going to bundle pricing.
Tim?
I agree. Drip pricing has been around for decades. Right. And unless everyone, in Europe they did some new regulations, but
right.
If everyone doesn't do the exact same thing.
They require total pricing in Europe.
Yeah, and so if regulation happens, then it'll happen. If regulation doesn't happen, then it won't. Because consumers search, I think it was mentioned on one of the earlier panels, when they're first looking at the first page, it says this is $100 a night, and that one's $200 a night, and that one's $120, and they go, okay, I'm going to pick the $100 one. By the time they're down the track to find out the $100 one has a $100 guest fee, they think, oh, everyone has a guest fee, so that's just normal. And so
they're misinformed.
They may be misinformed, because they are all different, but that's the nature of consumer behavior at this point. And so no channel wants to be presenting their prices higher. When Airbnb, we experimented with Airbnb quietly a couple of years ago on bundling in the price with them where they would have no Airbnb fee, and they didn't market it, and it didn't work. In fact, Airbnb called us and said, can you turn that test off?
Yeah, I mean,
it's obviously not working.
I agree with Tim on this. There's what Airbnb says and there's what they do. I don't listen to what they say, I watch what they do. And I think if you watch what they do, they're not bundling. It will be an option, but you'll have to choose it as an option. It won't be default.
The audience
and then
will
it's
have
choosing
to watch
it for everyone.
What did you say?
When you choose it on Airbnb, all Airbnb ads show that way, so and then there's a consistency. And I'm glad the way they did it, by the way, because originally they told us they were just going to move to it, and we were like, that's going to be a disaster, and you're a public company, don't do it. And They ended up choosing to do it in a way that was much softer than what we thought they were going to do. So it was, to me, a sigh of relief, because I think that it's a risky proposition unless Booking, Vrbo, everyone else signs up for it, and it has to be bundled in with their fees too.
That's right. They're
Airbnb
not
charges
in a
fees.
vacuum. They're in a competitive situation. In some cases, that inventory is on cross-platforms, so they can't be out of market by showing bundled pricing versus Booking.com or Expedia, Vrbo, who are showing unbundled. They'll just be completely,
So the regulators are going to have to step in.
if they want to.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they will.
And the next thing will be to show the taxes as well.
Well, I hope so. I mean, the tax is a big issue with Airbnb. It does not help them with their fights for fair regulations. And they're going to have to grow up. They've been a pretty immature company. They're going to have to grow up on this tax issue stuff.
Yep. Well, I think that's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.